The smell hit me first, lemon-scented disinfectant trying to mask 20 years of fried onions and panic sweat. I stood in the doorway of my parents' brand new deli and watched Mom explain to the health inspector why the walk-in still wasn't up to code. Dad was at the register, running a customer's card for the third time because the machine kept timing out. They looked exhausted in that proud but terrified way only small business owners can wear. They didn't see me yet. Good. I needed 10 seconds to shove the grin back into my chest. 3 weeks ago, this same deli was a failing sandwich counter with a C-grade window sticker and a Yelp page full of moldy bread photos. The landlord, who happened to own the entire block, had called in the overdue rent. Mom cried on my sofa. Dad pretended he wasn't having chest pains. I listened, nodded, poured tea, and said, "Let me see what I can do." What I did was buy the building. Not a trust, not a shell company. Just me, Emma Serrano, 32, sole proprietor of nothing more glamorous than a one-woman handyman service that keeps gentrifying Brooklyn bathrooms from leaking into the downstairs neighbor's cereal. I fix things. Always have. The bank called it aggressive leverage. My joints called it stupid. I called it necessary. Years of tax auction specials, sleeping on plywood in half-gutted units, showering at clients' places when my own pipes were torn open. No vacations, no furniture that wasn't on casters, one pair of decent boots and a truck held together by hope and hose clamps. I paid the back taxes, signed the deed, then emailed the landlord a 30-day notice to vacate his own storefront because his lease was month to month, and I wasn't renewing. It took him 4 days to realize the Emma Serrano on the paperwork was the same kid who used to regrout his tub for cash. He left screaming. I changed the locks. Then I spent 2 all-nighters stripping grease off every surface, rewiring the overloaded fridge, and installing a new PAS system I'd coded myself during slow periods at other clients' apartments. I didn't tell my parents any of it. They thought a mystery investor had swooped in and given them a second chance on the condition they keep running the place exactly as before, only cleaner, faster, and with updated branding they didn't understand. The health inspector snapped his tablet shut. Looks good. Grades bumped to A. Window sticker arrives Friday. He left. Mom sagged against the counter. Dad finally noticed me. "Emmy, you're early for lunch," he said, using the childhood nickname I pretend to hate. "We're still figuring the new register." I shrugged. "I can wait." They got busy. I watched. Customers trickled in, mostly neighborhood regulars who'd written the deli off years ago. They ordered the same turkey Swiss, then paused at the taste same ingredients. Different construction. Bread toasted 30 seconds longer, so the mayo doesn't sog. Lettuce stacked under the cheese so it stays crisp. Tiny fixes nobody names, but mouths notice. I'd rewired the prep line flow the same way I reroute plumbing, remove friction, add slope, let gravity pay the bill. By 1:30, the line was out the door. Mom's cheeks were flushed, but her shoulders were back. Every time she plated a sandwich, she gave the top slice of bread 2 quick taps with her knuckles, listening for crispness like a mechanic listening to an engine. Dad moved like a younger man, calling orders, restocking, running cards without cursing the machine. He still wrote totals on the nearest scrap of paper or napkin first, like he didn't quite trust the screen. They didn't see me step behind the counter, tie on an apron, and start washing the sheet pans that had piled up. When I was 12, I did dishes here for quarters. Now I did them for 0 because I owned the sink. At 3, the rush thinned. Mom finally noticed my wet sleeves. "You don't have to." "It's fine," I said. "New owner's weird about health code." Dad laughed. "We haven't met him. Just emails. Lawyer says he's some renovator who flips buildings." "Her," I corrected. They blinked. I dried my hands, pulled the folded deed copy from my back pocket, and slid it across the stainless steel table. Mom read the first 2 lines, grabbed the edge of the counter. Dad read over her shoulder, mouth opening like a broken cash drawer. Silence, stretched. I waited for the sound of assumptions cracking. "You bought the building," Mom whispered. "And the equipment debt. And the supplier tabs. And the insurance lapsed last month, so I renewed it." I kept my voice flat, no victory laps. "You're current on everything. Lease to yourselves is $1 a year, month to month, cancelable by either party with 30 days notice." Market rent would be 12 grand. I'm eating the difference. Dad found his words first. Why didn't you tell us? Because you wouldn't have taken it. True. They'd spent 30 years proving they could scrape by without charity, especially from the kid they still reminded to have a backup plan whenever I picked up a wrench. Mom's eyes filled. Not joy, panic. We can't pay you back. We don't have that kind of money. You don't have to. I'm not asking. Dad straightened, pride firing. We're not a charity case. I never said you were, I answered. He jabbed a finger at the deed. So you're the landlord now. We mess up, you evict us. You get to decide if we stay or go. The words landed harder than he meant them to. Mom flinched. I let the sting sit a beat, then forced myself not to explain too fast. I already decided he doesn't get to evict you, I said. That was the whole point. I took his lever away. I'm not here to pull it on you. I tapped the paper. You're my contractors. Salary 0, but you keep every penny of profit the place makes after ingredient costs. I take the depreciation and the tax write-off. Works for both of us. They stared like I'd spoken Mandarin. I waited. Fixing drywall teaches patience. Force doesn't work. You sand feather, let cure. Mom found her voice. How did you even? Where did you get that much cash? Saved, I said. Simple answer. It was shorter than I swapped sleep for scaffolding for 10 years. I didn't mention the side hustle buying condemned row houses at tax auction, living in the worst unit while I brought plumbing and electric up to code, then refinancing once comps rose. I'd owned 6 buildings before 30, all under an LLC named after my grandmother who'd cleaned offices so my dad could finish high school. They never ask why I always smelled like sawdust, or why my truck registration listed a post office box. They assumed I rented like every other millennial they pitied. Dad rubbed his temples. We need to think. Take the weekend, I said. But the old landlord's gone. You stay, you run it, you keep profits. You leave, I find another tenant and you go back to scrambling for rent somewhere else. Your choice. His jaw worked. He looked like he wanted to argue with the physics of it, not the facts. I untied the apron, folded it, left it on the hook I'd installed yesterday. Then I walked out, heart hammering like a Finnish nailer. Saturday morning my phone buzzed, a single text from Mom. We're staying. Dinner Sunday. Bring your tool belt if the walk-in starts humming again. I exhaled so hard my ribs squeaked. Sunday I showed up with lasagna, a case of beer, and a new magnetic strip for the knife wall. Mom had already printed a fresh menu board, same chalk, neater handwriting. Dad was testing the slicer he de-babied since 1998, now calibrated to the millimeter because I de-replaced the warped bolt. He never found time to hunt down. We ate in the back office, folding chairs balanced on the uneven floor I'd leveled with cedar shims. Halfway through the second beer, Dad cleared his throat. We told Tutta Lords we got lucky, he said. Some investor believed in us. I shrugged. Luck works. Mom studied me. You didn't get lucky. You got steady. We just didn't see it. I let that sit. No need to sand it smoother. They started asking small questions: how I learned city permits, where I bought wholesale hardware, why I picked that POS software. I answered without jargon, no, I told you so. By dessert, they were brainstorming a second location, like people who suddenly realize the floor under them is solid. Monday, I met them at dawn to accept the first produce delivery under the new bookkeeping app I'd synced to their phones. Dad watched the invoice populate in real time, inventory counts adjusting automatically. He looked at me sideways. You could have sold this setup to anybody, he said. Why us? Because you're the only deli that ever let a 12-year-old invoice for dishwashing quarters, I said. Also, your roast pork is still better than anything within 5 subway stops. I like winning bets. He laughed short, surprised, real. Month 1 numbers came in, triple the average daily sales, 0 late invoices, Yelp rating up to 4 stars. Mom texted me a screenshot every night, like a kid showing a report card. I answered with the same emoji, thumbs up, no words. Month 2, they hired 2 high school kids from the block. I installed a scheduling app, showed Mom how to drag shifts, let the algorithm calculate overtime before it happened. She called it the crystal ball, told customers her daughter built it, voice proud but shaky, like she was testing how the sentence felt in her mouth. One Friday, the POS froze at lunch rush. For 6 minutes, we were back to cash and a calculator while I rebooted the server in the back. Nobody died. Dad swore the old register had cursed us from wherever it went. Month 3. A food blogger tagged them under the radar revival. Line went around the corner. Dad ran out of roast pork by 2, our first real screw-up under the new system, and panic texted me. I called my supplier, had an emergency shoulder delivery by 4, then stayed till close slicing while he barked orders, half grateful, half furious he needed me. When the last customer left, he handed me a paper towel, numbers scrawled in blue pen, sweat wrinkled at the edges. "You're cut," he said. I pushed it back. "We have a deal." Deal didn't say you work for free. I'm not. I'm watching my investment appreciate. He folded the slip, tucked it in my shirt pocket like tips used to go in his when I was small. "Take it or I rewrite the lease." I took it. $43. More satisfying than any rent check. By month 6, they were talking catering, maybe a food truck. I drew up budgets, found a used step van with good suspension, helped them strip and retrofit it over 3 weekends. We painted it the same green as the original deli sign, the color my grandmother chose when she fronted them the first security deposit back in '92. Dad caught me staring at the dried paint. "You remember her tile choice too?" he asked. "Mint hide scuffs," I said. "She was practical." He nodded, eyes shiny, went back to sanding. A summer Friday, the truck debuted at a street fair in Fort Greene. I stood in line wearing a baseball cap, incognito. A woman ahead of me told her friend, "They say the owner's kid designed the whole rebrand. Some marketing genius." I smiled into my soda. That night, we sat on folding chairs behind the truck, counting cash, smelling like onions and victory. Mom poured cheap champagne into paper cups. Dad raised his. "To the investor." I clinked, drank. "To the cooks." He cleared his throat. "We were wrong. About the tools, the talent, the everything. We thought fixing meant patching. You showed us rebuilding." Mom reached over, squeezed my wrist. "We see you now." I swallowed hard, nodded. Enough. Winter, they hit their first $100,000 month. We celebrated with takeout dumplings in the warm back office, new space heaters humming. Dad pulled out a small box inside, a key stamped with the deli logo. "Unit 2, he said. "Empty storefront 2 blocks down. Lease starts February. We want partners, not landlords. 35% equity for the build-out. Your call." I turned the key over, feeling its weight against my palm. It was just brass and teeth and a stamped logo, but my fingers knew what came next. Measurements, permits, late nights under bad fluorescent light. "Deal," I said. They grinned like kids who just learned the world could be larger than one struggling counter. I grinned back, already mentally mapping foot traffic and drain locations, already hearing the new place's heartbeat under future drywall dust. Outside, snow started falling on the avenue. Inside, 3 newly minted partners argued over sauce ratios, schedules, and paint chips, normal stuff. The kind that used to break them. Now it was just terrain, something we could measure, cut, and fit. I let them talk, opened my notebook, and began the next set of quiet calculations: flow rates, break-even day, how much load the family could carry without cracking. Same math, new building. Same daughter, new ledger. They finally saw the tool belt. I finally watched them hold the weight of it without flinching,